Lydia's hand shot up to cover Madame Victoria's mouth, the instant the bedroom door began to move. "Don't speak," she whispered, breath tight, eyes wide with fear. On the other side of the door, a man's voice slipped through the crack, cold and calm. It was Adrian, Nelson, Madame Victoria's husband, speaking on the phone as if ordering new shoes. "She's 48, no children, parents gone. Everything will be mine. We finish it tonight." Quietly, Lydia's heart pounded so hard she could hear it echo in her ears. Madame Victoria gripped her wrist. The two women froze in the dim hallway light. One in a blue lace wrapper with reading glasses dangling on a chain, the other in a simple maid's dress clutching a fresh stack of towels that suddenly felt as heavy as stone. The doorknob turned. Adrian stepped forward. Lydia held her breath. And just as the door began to open, Adrian stopped. He laughed into the phone, low and bitter. Then the door creaked closed again. "Don't worry," he said to whoever was on the line, his voice fading as his footsteps receded. "I'll make it look like an illness. After all, she's stressed. The company runs her day and night." The call ended. Silence swelled like a drum. Madame Victoria looked at Lydia, shock washing over her like a cold rain. Lydia swallowed hard. "Ma," she whispered, hand trembling but voice steady. "Please listen to me first." And that's how the worst night began. Hours before that moment, morning had risen soft and golden over Lagos. Palm fronds swayed in the light breeze. The white mansion in Ikoyi awakened like a quiet ship, gates sliding, sprinklers ticking, the kitchen humming with the smell of sweet tea and fresh bread. Lydia had been awake since 5 a.m., as always. She moved like a gentle wind, mopping, rinsing, folding towels, checking flowers by the piano, wiping the glass rail along the staircase. The living room sparkled, marble floors gleamed like still water, blue curtains fell straight and smooth. She counted glasses before a meeting, checked batteries in the remote, covered a scuff on the hallway wall with a framed family photo so Madame Victoria wouldn't see stress where only peace should exist. She did these things because she knew what it felt like to live without peace. Her parents had died years ago, first her father, then her mother, like two candles blown out by the same gust of wind. Since then, life had been hard. One job here, another there, sometimes a bed, sometimes a bench. She had learned to be quiet, quick, careful. She had learned to make spaces feel safe, even when money was scarce. 3 months ago, when she started work in Madame Victoria's house, she told herself, "Give this house your best. Make it run like a song." Madame Victoria noticed. She was the billionaire CEO of Nigeria's largest fabric company. Her designs hung in shop windows from Yaba to Victoria Island. Firm but fair, she thanked Lydia for small acts done well. She often wore blue lace and let her glasses hang low when reading. Sometimes, when work ended late, she would call Lydia into the study for tea. They'd sit at the big table, talking about nothing heavy, just books and how streets sound after rain. "Your hands are careful," Madame Victoria said once, watching Lydia arrange fresh roses. "Careful hands save a home from breaking." Lydia smiled. "Careful eyes too, Ma." The only shadow in the house was Adrian Nelson. Tall, handsome, 55, with a smile that never reached his eyes. He didn't work. He didn't have to. He flew on Madame Victoria's private jet, drove her cars, ate with the board sometimes, waved at cameras. But in quiet corners, his laughter cut like a knife. He tossed his shoes in the living room, saying, "What's the use of all this money if we can't live free?" Then he would wink and order Lydia to bring another drink. Lydia didn't judge. She only watched. She noticed he never asked Madame Victoria about her day. She noticed the way he rolled his eyes when she took calls at night. She noticed the sadness in her gaze as it lingered on the small wooden cradle in the glass cabinet along the hallway. A cradle that had never held a child. That afternoon, a storm gathered over the city. The sky turned heavy, gray, and charged. The first thunder rolled like a distant drum. Lydia finished cleaning the living room and moved toward Madame Victoria's bedroom to change the sheets and wipe the side tables. As she reached the doorway, she heard it. Adrian's voice, sharp, cold, unplayful. "I told you, we're done waiting," he hissed. "I can't spend the rest of my life like this." "She can't give me a child? All the wealth falls to me once she's gone. Her parents are dead. She's their only child. We'll say it was stress. We'll say the doctor advised rest. We'll do it tonight. We can find a spur." Lydia froze. The towel slipped slightly in her hands. Her mind raced, but her body stayed still, like a cat ready to pounce. Every lesson about careful hands, careful eyes, rose within her. She didn't gasp. She didn't drop anything. She didn't whisper, "Oh God," though her chest begged to. Footsteps clicked behind her. A gentle perfume drifted in. Madame Victoria. She walked toward the door, carrying her reading glasses in a folder, as if nothing could be wrong. She reached for her phone, perhaps to call her husband, move a box, or open a window. Lydia moved faster than fear. She stepped in front of Madame Victoria, set down the towels, and pressed her hand softly over Madame Victoria's mouth. "Don't talk," she whispered, voice barely there. "Ma, please listen." For a heartbeat, Madame Victoria just stared, stunned that her maid would dare, but the steadiness, brightness, and pleading in Lydia's eyes made her trust. She didn't call out. She didn't push Lydia away. She stayed perfectly still. Through the door, Adrian continued, his voice lower now, as if moving deeper into the room. "Yes, I have the contact," he said. "1 pill and rest. Looks natural. Make sure it's clean. I don't want news. I want freedom. I want a new life, a younger wife, a family. This one has given me nothing." Madame Victoria's face shifted, first confusion, then understanding, then a pain so deep her shoulders sagged. She had fed this man, opened her life to him. He had flown on her jet, smiled in her photos. She had chosen him, even with questions about children looming. And now? Lydia felt Madame Victoria tremble and gently took her hand. "Ma," she mouthed slowly, no sound. "Call the police." Tears filled Madame Victoria's eyes, but she nodded. She pulled back like a dancer, taking a quiet step. Together, they moved down the hallway into the small study. Lydia shut the door silently behind them. Madame Victoria's fingers shook as she dialed emergency. She whispered into the phone, "Please come. My husband is planning to harm me." The operator asked questions. Madame Victoria answered briefly, glancing at Lydia as if the maid were the ground beneath her. "Units are on the way," the operator promised. "Thank you," Madame Victoria breathed. The house seemed to hold its breath. The air felt like glass. A crystal in the living room chandelier chimed softly as if touched. Outside, the storm cracked open. Rain poured. Footsteps returned. Adrian left the bedroom, phone call finished. His shoes tapped the marble. He hummed a tune, moving toward the study, closer, closer. The handle turned. Lydia glanced at the window. She could hear it. Sirens at first faint, then weaving louder through the wet streets of Ikoyi like silver snakes. Adrian smiled as he pushed open the study door, eyes sweeping the room, landing on the two women, his wife, pale yet strong, and the maid standing before her like a tree refusing to bend. "What's this?" he asked, voice silky. "A meeting I wasn't invited to?" Lydia lifted her chin. Madame Victoria held the phone tight. The sirens grew louder. The gate groaned under the storm. Boots pounded wet stone. Adrian's confident smirk faltered as armed officers entered the study. His eyes darted between his wife and the maid, panic flickering. "What is this?" he barked, voice trembling now. "Victoria, tell them to leave. I haven't done anything." But Madame Victoria stood firm, her reading glasses low on her nose, tears glistening, but voice unwavering. "You plan to kill me, Adrian," she said, words sharp as glass. "I heard everything. Every single word." Adrian laughed nervously, his voice cracking. It was a joke. You know me. I was only trying to sound strong on the phone, that's all." The police officer in charge, a tall man with a stern face, raised his hand. "Sir, you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder," he declared. "No!" Adrian shouted, stepping back. "It's a lie. She's my wife. She knows I love her. This is all a misunderstanding." But as he struggled, two officers moved forward, gripping his arms and snapping cold handcuffs around his wrists. Adrian turned sharply toward Lydia, eyes blazing with fury. "You!" he hissed, voice low and venomous. "This is your doing." Lydia's chest tightened, but she held her ground, looking him straight in the eye, calm yet fearless. "No, sir. This is your doing." The police led him out, his voice echoing down the hallway. "I'm innocent. I'm being set up. Victoria, you know me." Silence settled once the doors closed. Only the storm outside rumbled on, as if the sky itself had witnessed the betrayal. Madame Victoria sank slowly into a chair, hands trembling as she removed her glasses. For a moment, she seemed 10 years older, her strength stripped bare. Lydia hurried to her side, kneeling. "Ma, are you all right?" she whispered. Madame Victoria gripped Lydia's hand tightly. Tears fell, but her voice remained steady. "If you hadn't stopped me, if you hadn't told me to listen..." She shook her head, unable to finish. "You saved my life." Lydia lowered her eyes, throat tight. "I only did what was right, Ma." Madame Victoria cupped Lydia's face with her trembling hand. "No, you did more than that. You gave me the truth outside." Flashing red and blue lights faded as police cars pulled away. The house felt different, emptier, yet safer. But in that silence, a new chapter began, because tomorrow the world would know what happened inside the Adrian's mansion, and Lydia's life, once hidden in the shadow of service, was about to change forever. Morning broke heavier than the storm the night before. News had already spread. Billionaire CEO's husband arrested in shocking murder plot. Cameras flashed outside the court gates, reporters shouting questions, umbrellas bobbing in the Lagos rain. Inside, whispers thickened the air. Lydia sat beside Madame Victoria on a polished wooden bench, no longer in her plain maid's uniform. Madame Victoria had dressed her in a golden gown, elegant, radiant against her dark skin. Her hair, usually tied back, was neatly styled. She looked nothing like the girl who had scrubbed floors before dawn. Madame Victoria, regal in her white lace gown and signature glasses, rested a calm hand on Lydia's arm. "Remember," she said softly, "you are part of this family now. Hold your head high." The courtroom door opened. All eyes turned. Adrian Nelson shuffled in, hands cuffed, a police officer on each side. His once proud shoulders sagged, suit wrinkled from the night in custody. He scanned the room desperately, searching for a way to rewrite the past. "Court, rise," the clerk called. The judge entered, stern and composed, and the proceedings began. The prosecution wasted no time. "Your Honor," the lawyer said sharply, "we present evidence that the defendant, Mr. Adrian Nelson, conspired to take the life of his wife, Madame Victoria Nelson, to inherit her vast estate. We will prove this through testimony and, most importantly, his own words." Adrian's eyes widened. "What words?" he muttered. The courtroom fell silent as a recording played. From the speakers came his voice, smooth, confident, deadly clear. "She can't give me a child. Her wealth is mine when she's gone. We'll make it look natural. I want freedom. I want a new wife. This one has given me nothing." Gasps filled the room. Some shook their heads in disbelief. Others stared at Madame Victoria with pity. Adrian stammered, voice desperate. "It was a prank. A foolish joke. I never meant any of it." But the judge's expression remained unmoved. "You admit this is your voice?" "Yes, but..." "No further explanation needed." The judge cut him off. The prosecutor continued. "Your Honor, we ask for the full weight of the law. A man who plots to betray his wife, a woman who gave him everything, deserves no mercy." Adrian sank into his chair, face pale. His eyes flicked one last time toward Lydia, blazing with a mix of anger and regret. She met his gaze calmly, hands folded neatly in her lap. The gavel struck. The judge's voice rang clear. "Adrian Nelson, this court finds you guilty of conspiracy to commit murder. You are hereby sentenced to 10 years in prison." The courtroom erupted, reporters scribbling furiously, onlookers whispering in disbelief. Madame Victoria closed her eyes, tears slipping down her cheeks. She turned to Lydia, grasped her hand tightly, and whispered, "Thank you for saving me." Even as Adrian was dragged away shouting that he was innocent, Lydia knew this was only the beginning. A new life was unfolding, one where her place in Madame Victoria's world was about to be forever rewritten. The days after the trial felt like stepping into a new universe for Lydia. Reporters swarmed outside the mansion, eager for a glimpse of the billionaire CEO who had survived her husband's betrayal. But when the gates opened, it wasn't just Madame Victoria they saw. It was Lydia, standing beside her in gold, no longer hidden in the shadows of service. Madame Victoria had made a decision that stunned everyone. From this day, she announced at a press gathering, voice steady and clear, Lydia is not just my maid. She is my daughter. The words sent ripples through the crowd. Cameras flashed wildly. Overwhelmed, Lydia bowed her head, chest swelling with emotions she could not name. From scrubbing floors to being recognized as family by one of the most powerful women in the country. Her life had changed completely. But Madame Victoria didn't stop there. She registered Lydia for the university entrance exams. When Lydia passed with top marks, Madame Victoria enrolled her in one of the best universities in Lagos to study accountancy. The first day of class terrified Lydia. She walked across campus in a crisp white blouse and navy skirt, clutching her books tightly. Students whispered as she passed. Some recognized her from the news. Others knew only that she was Madame Victoria's adopted daughter. But she held her head high, remembering Madame Victoria's words. Hold your head high. You belong here. University life was grueling. Lydia studied late into the night, eyes burning from textbooks. She faced jealous classmates who murmured that she had bought her way in, unaware of the hardships that had shaped her. Yet she let no bitterness enter her heart. She worked harder, proving herself every step of the way. 4 years later, Lydia graduated as the top student in her department. The auditorium erupted in applause as she walked across the stage in her cap and gown. Madame Victoria sat in the front row, tears shining, clapping proudly. When Lydia joined Madame Victoria's company as an account officer, it felt like destiny. No longer carrying trays or wiping tables, she now managed files, signed documents, and delivered presentations that earned nods of respect from board members. Her quiet strength, the same that had saved her boss, now guided the company's finances. During this time, Lydia met Gabriel, a young executive from another firm, tall and kind-hearted, with eyes that seemed to notice her in a way no one else did. Their first conversation was about work, but soon it blossomed into late-night calls, shared laughter, and secret glances in crowded rooms. Within months, Gabriel proposed, and their wedding was extravagant. Madame Victoria spared no expense, giving Lydia a celebration she had once only dreamed of. As Lydia walked down the aisle in her flowing white gown, she saw Madame Victoria smiling through tears, joy brighter than any diamond in the hall. Yet even as Lydia began her new life as a wife, Madame Victoria carried a heavy decision in her heart, facing Adrian once again. 2 years had passed since Lydia's wedding. Her life with Gabriel was filled with laughter, quiet mornings, and dreams of family. She often visited the mansion, where Madame Victoria welcomed her like a true daughter. But behind the gentle smile lay something unresolved, the shadow of Adrian. Though the court had closed its chapter, her heart had not. She could not erase the betrayal, but she also could not live with bitterness forever. One afternoon, she invited Lydia to the garden table. The sun filtered softly through the mango trees. Madame Victoria adjusted her glasses and spoke slowly. "My child," she began, "forgiveness is not about them deserving it. It's about freeing ourselves. I've carried the weight of Adrian's betrayal long enough. Tomorrow, I will see him." Lydia's eyes widened. "Ma, after everything he planned to do to you, why?" Victoria smiled faintly. "Because strength is not only in punishing, it is also in letting go." The next day, Madame Victoria entered the prison with Lydia at her side. The echo of iron gates slamming shut behind them sent chills down Lydia's spine. Guards led Adrian out. His once proud frame was bent, hair grayer, face lined with regret. When his eyes met Victoria's, he froze. Slowly, he sank to his knees, tears streaming down his face. "I don't deserve to see you," he whispered. "I was blind, greedy, foolish. Yet here you stand." Victoria's voice was calm, steady, like a flowing river. "Adrian, you tried to destroy me, but I refuse to live chained by anger. I am withdrawing the case. You will be released, but our marriage ends today." From her bag, she drew divorce papers and placed them before him. "I forgive you, but never again as husband and wife." Adrian's sobs filled the room. "You forgive me after everything I've done?" "Yes," Victoria replied softly, "because I choose peace." Then she surprised him further. She pulled out a document, an account transfer of $1 million. "Start your life again," she said. "Use it well. Make this your second chance." Adrian collapsed in tears, clutching the papers. "I don't deserve this kindness," he said, broken. Victoria's eyes glistened as she turned away. Lydia supported her arm, and together they left the prison, leaving Adrian behind with more mercy than he had ever imagined. 2 years later, Lydia held her newborn baby girl in her arms. She and Gabriel named her Amara Grace. When Madame Victoria held the baby, tears rolled down her cheeks. She kissed the child's forehead and whispered, "This is the dream I thought would never come true." In that moment, surrounded by love, Lydia realized her journey had come full circle. She was no longer the poor maid who scrubbed floors in silence. She was a daughter, a wife, a mother, and a woman whose courage had saved a billionaire and reshaped destiny itself. And as Madame Victoria rocked little Amara to sleep, peace finally settled over the mansion that had once echoed with betrayal. If you enjoyed this story, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel for more compelling stories.